everything is constantly and increasingly directed towards hierarchy, money, income, profit and gain, as well as productivity due to the efforts of those who are greedy for profit and might, an attitude which is however spreading more and more amongst individual human beings and your entire peoples. Therefore, you are becoming ever more indifferent to one another, more mistrustful of one another, and increasingly emotionless, disinterested, indolent and obtuse in interpersonal relationships, which is causing simple human connections to be destroyed and entire families to be ruined. Under such unbearable circumstances, many amongst you will feel blazing anger rise up within you and will therefore torment other fellow human beings or even extract bloody revenge on them. However, trust amongst you human beings will vanish to an increasing extent, leading to ever-worsening forms of jealousy and hatred arising in many of you, whether because of a difference of opinion or a different belief, because of money, goods, and chattels, or simply because the face, body, clothing, or behavior of the other person provokes you. Therefore, there will be increasing gevalt amongst you, and not only because some people simply find it good and satisfying when they torment, beat, spit on, tread down or humiliate others, even accepting the death of those being tormented. And in the future, gevalt, murder and deliberate as well as malicious and warlike destruction will prevail amongst you, something which will in its entirety also be carried into space near Earth, and in fact not only in a particular when worlds close to Earth are settled by human beings of Earth. You human beings of Earth increasingly want to seize the might of creation for yourselves, and the longer this continues, the more you know no limits and imagine yourselves to be the highest and mightiest form of life on Earth and in the universe. However, vengeance will be extracted when all your doings turn sooner or later to your own harm, and as a result of which you fall into a deep abyss. The tall buildings that tower into the clouds as skyscrapers will collapse, the fields will lie in waste, and therefore it will no longer be possible to bring in any harvests. And the longer this continues, the more you as individual human beings will make your own laws, in accordance with which you terrorize the environment and your fellow human beings, as is already the case in many places due to extremists, terrorists, young people, people full of hatred and consumed with a desire for revenge, and people who are confused, as well as autocrats who take it upon themselves to inflict punishments. Many of you will fall back into barbarity, and hunger will increasingly ravage the world because many natural foodstuffs are misused for purposes other than for food due to the greed for profit and might. Take for example the biofuels used for powering machinery and engines. Lubricants will also be manufactured for these using foodstuffs, and these are only two of many examples with regard to the misuse of foodstuffs. Climate change caused by the overpopulation of your earthly humanity will entail huge natural catastrophes which will become ever worse and also impinge on your own lives. As a result, in future ever more severe droughts and periods of cold weather, as well as vast storms of all kinds, rainstorms and firestorms brought forth by forest fires will scourge the entire earth and bring about destructions full of gevalt, as will also be the case due to an increase in earthquakes and undersea quakes, landslides, storm surges, tsunamis and volcanic eruptions, floods and high tides. Therefore, in the course of the coming time, hundreds of thousands and even millions of you human beings will lose your lives, whilst others will not be able to withstand all the misery and will seek death at their own hands. Others still will increasingly turn to drugs which have been partially legalized through the irrationality of those in power because they are too stupid to recognize the danger of drug addiction and its consequences, or because they themselves are profiting from the drug trade. Only very few people are troubled by the fact that this destroys the body, the psyche and even the life of the addicts, or by the fact that this means more and more murders and suicides take place as do rapes, criminal and unlawful deeds, and many of you people act like wild beasts, and this situation has existed for decades. Therefore, criminality, crime and capital offenses are increasing, as Gevalt is burgeoning unstoppably. Indeed, this is in relation to the increase in overpopulation. Gevalt acts committed by young people are on the rise, just as is their carrying and use of weapons of all kinds which they employ unscrupulously, resulting in the injury and even death of innocent people, as is also the case with extremist groups that carry out Gevalt acts. Very many of you place less and less value on the physical and psychic integrity of people of your kind, as a result of which you harm your fellow human beings, injure them physically and psychically, and you do not even shrink from killing and murdering them. By these means, the life of many of you will become truly catastrophic and hellish, and this will only come to an end when you are carried off by death. However, this will not be sufficient in the future, because the addiction to pleasure and amusement as well as to holiday travel is increasing just as unstoppably and always entails an ever greater disaster, just as you men and women soon get divorced from one another and live apart, or if you come together frivolously and get married or live together in apparent friendship and companionship. And it will increasingly be the case that you as men and women embark on sexual relations with one another without getting to know one another more closely and, in wild passion, bring unwanted children into the world, who grow up without fathers and indeed never get to know their father. And, furthermore, in this way you will spread plagues such as AIDS, syphilis, tuberculosis and other scourges, so that in this regard evil will spread from bed to bed and from person to person. Therefore in future, the sexuality that you human beings of earth incorrectly believe to be true love will end up as an evil scourge. Good morality is increasingly becoming lost amongst you, as is righteousness, respect for life, love, decency and fairness. True friendship, companionship, bonds and love are already hard to find, and are becoming more so, whilst freedom has long since become a charade and will remain so for a long time, as will peace. This is because actions are only predicated on what is currently popular without any responsibility and entirely unscrupulously. Therefore, more and more parents are sexually abusing their own children, and abuse is taking place between siblings, as well as an increase in rapes between woman and man, woman and woman, man and man, whilst many ecclesiastics and educators, etc., are also sexually abusing those under their protection, and more pedophiles are committing sexual crimes against children, as has already occurred in many cases. Just as immorality and sexual degeneracy have been propagated for years now in cinema and on television, this will continue in a much broader form in the future as well. Whoever speaks and teaches the truth with regard to creation and its laws and recommendations doesn't want to be listened to by you human beings of earth for a long time, because your belief in all the false religions, sects, ideologies and various false philosophies as well as in politics keeps you imprisoned as if by steel claws. As a result, you will continue to allow these and the falsehoods of the false prophets to be spread by religious and sectarian ecclesiastics, around whom you cluster in blind belief, in obedience and listening to their lies, saying that you should carry weapons in order to fight against those who are teaching the truth of creation and its laws and recommendations. And the false prophets and those of you who believe in them will speak about fairness, something which you however truly do not know. Therefore you will commit murder in your delusion and fanaticism, as has already occurred in the case of religious and fanatical terrorists. Finally, there will no longer be any order amongst you human beings of earth, because vice and addictions, greed for might, jealousy, hatred, revenge and retribution are spreading everywhere. Many amongst you are yielding to the urge to kill your fellow human beings, meaning that unbounded murder and destruction will take place more and more all over the world.